What is going on, everybody? It is Gotham again here, and today I'm bringing you all an important video, one that I've wanted to talk about for a while now, which is the importance of 2023 and the impact it has left on the early mid stages of farming in this game. I'm joined by my feline friends today, and the way I've laid this out is that I have 7 points I would like to iterate, all of which I believe might potentially be quite controversial. However, they are the points that I believe is the reason why the game is shifting in the way that it is. And for those of you who all have seen my 2024 farming guide, which if you have not, I will put a flag in the top right of this video that you can go ahead and click on to watch. But some of you guys who have seen that probably know my opinions on where the meta is shifting as far as farming goes for early and mid stages of the game. So let's go ahead and jump right into point number 1. Alright, so the first point that I would like to make is about none other than Jesus Christ himself. It's that I believe that JMK is the worst possible first Galactic Legend that you can pick up for your account, which is very contradictory to what we've seen in the past. However, these days he has a lot working against him, such as his performance. These days he's kind of fell off a lot, especially without Commander Ahsoka Tano. Realistically, without Commander Ahsoka Tano, there's not a lot you can do. The team just really lacks damage as a whole, unless you're putting someone in like Gas, but then you don't have, your Gas team with the 501st. And outside of that, there's not really anyone who's going to be able to make up that extra damage that Commander Ahsoka Tano brings to the table with her sheen and armor shreds, the instant kill, right? She does so much for that team that you're not going to have access to until 4 million galactic power. And then in addition to that, you're going to have to farm her for like 33 months or so to actually get her. So really rough performance, and not to mention he's not even a character that you can really solo teams with, right? He has a lot that he gains a lot of ultimate charge from teammates who have buffs. He's got the damage ability, cooldown decrease, call to assists and all that, but those all require team members to make that happen. So his performance, definitely without Commander Ahsoka Tano, is not the greatest. Now we also have the unfortunate circumstance of his synergy and the requirements. The synergy is just kind of not there. A lot of these requirements don't really have anything to do with one another unless you're putting it on a JMK team himself, right? You've got like Grievous, Magna Guard, and Watt, which you could put on a team together, which isn't terrible, but then the rest is just a bunch of mishmash Jedi you're not really ever going to put together, right? Unless under Qui-Gon lead, but then you're kind of missing a character that I also want to bring into my next point, which is that all of the requirements for Negotiator that you want at Relic aren't even on this list, and the big one that's missing is Jedi Knight Anakin. Anakin's not even a requirement on this list, meaning that you can't even make a great Jedi team because Anakin's kind of all your damage for that said team. Ahsoka's not on here. The Bad Batch aren't on here. Plo Koon's not on here. The Y-Wing Bomber's not on here. So really unfortunate. If you were to look at someone like SLKR, right, like half his requirements are also the pilots for his fleet, which is very convenient. And in this roster of requirements, that is just severely lacking, which is very unfortunate, but it is what it is. But that's also, big reason why. Not to mention there's also 2 Relic 8s and 4 Relic 7s. So, not to mention on top of all that, he's just downright expensive as a Galactic Legend. So, those are the reasons why I believe he is the first Galactic, the worst first Galactic Legend. But let's go ahead and jump right into point number 2. Now, the second point I'd like to make is going to be somewhat piggybacking off of the first, sticking with this Galactic Republic tag, and it's going to be about Padme herself, and her team, really, rather. And it's the fact that some people still consider her to be a core team, when in truth, she is painfully average. She has a ton of things that counter her, and she's got this problem of this looming presence of Qui-Gon Jinn, right? Where it's like, really Padme's best character on that team is going to be Jedi Knight Anakin. But Jedi Knight Anakin does infinitely more damage if you put him under Qui-Gon Jinn, right? And now we have Kelleran Beck in the game, which is taking him as well. And it's just like all the good characters that Padme would utilize, they're a lot better in other places. Really, her best use is with Moff Gideon, which is like, who would have seen that coming, right? It's like, if you don't use Moff Gideon, you're not ever really realistically getting a ton of stacks of courage that you're going to be able to use, unless it's someone like C-3PO who gets a ton, but he literally can't even use them, right? So it's like she's just convenient. That's the best thing she's got going for her, just because, you go your bugs, you get a Padme, then you go those pilots for the Negotiator, but it's like the team itself is really bad. It has a ton of counters. And then, like I said, all the characters are basically just going to be best utilized elsewhere. So that is the issue with Padme. I do not believe her to be a core team any longer in 2024. So let's go ahead and move on to point number 3. So for point number 3, we're going to be sticking with this Galactic Republic theme, but we are going to be talking about how this tag got absolutely dismantled this year. And the most insane part is that not only were they dismantled, but they were just downright disrespected by 2 characters, which were previously 2 of the worst characters in the entire game, managed to get a rework that now slaughters any single team that this faction can put up against them. Gas. Gar and ISC 2v5 with Maul, they roll over Kenobi. If you put them with an Imperial Troopers lineup, they're going to absolutely roll over Padme, Qui-Gon, or Kelleran Beck. And if they're faster than Bad Batch, they're going to roll over them too. It's like this faction got downright disrespected this year. So a rough year to be in the Galactic Republic. But hey, as Arnold says, it's great to be in the Empire, that's for sure. So that's going to be point number 3. Let's move on to point number 4. So for point number 4, I'm going to admit something I never thought I'd ever admit in my life, but it's that I actually believe in the current state of the game, Rey Palpatine is the best first Galactic Legend that you can go for your account. And why is that? Well, she's got a few good things going for her, right? Her requirements have actually aged phenomenally well. Between Zori Bliss and an unaligned Force user team, also a Wookiee team, basically all of her requirements are able to be put in teams that are actually good, right? You've got the JTR, which can go on Rey herself, or Ufu. Zori can put it on Zori. There are a couple requirements on here that you're never really going to end up using. But like I said, if you want to put them with Zori and then put your other optimal Zori characters with Rey or something like that, you can, and then these characters will still get use. So this can be Zori. This is Ufu. That can be Zori, Rey, Zori, or Rey. BB-8's kind of unfortunate, but you can put them with Rey or like Grievous. And then that's the Wookiee team. So every single one of those requirements has a place that they can potentially be, which is absolutely amazing. Also, if you actually look at the requirements themselves, there's only 3 Relic 7s, and everything else is Relic 5 or less, which is phenomenally cheap. So very, very, very cheap. The only thing is Heratus takes a bunch of really strange, crafts that go in there. So the ships are weird, but I mean, it's not like you have to get them to relic levels to be able to unlock the Raddus. It's not a hard unlock to do or anything like that. So the requirements themselves are very, very great, honestly, for your early game account. And then, in addition to that, there's just a phenomenal amount of flexibility, like I mentioned, that you can pull, since Rey herself just works with basically light side characters as a whole. You can pull from Scoundrels, Unaligned Force users, Resistance. You can really make anything work. I mean, literally, it just has to be light side. So she is phenomenally flexible and a really good pick for defense. So if you checked out the farming guide I made, which I will leave a link to that you can watch, I do recommend going Rey first, and I build a lot of teams that I think work well with her and that you can pull from. And so that is, in my opinion, why Rey is going to be the best first Galactic Legend for your account. So let's go ahead and jump right into point number 5. Alright guys, let's go ahead and move on to point number 5, which is going to be that, in my opinion, the Executor isn't necessarily all that worth to have first up until you get it to 7 stars, which is a stark contrast as to what I had said previously. But I also before didn't take into consideration the amount of time that it would actually take to get into 7 stars, because you unlock it at 80, and then you only get 10 shards a month, which, do the math, that is a long, long time before you reach it at 7 stars. And up until you do, you're missing out on a ton of extremely important things that the ship does. The ultimate isn't going to stun, right? You're missing on some decreased cooldowns. You're missing out on the 100% health and protection recovery. You're not getting the taunt back on Houndstooth, right? You're missing out on some additional prot and health recovery. Not going to be able to dispel stealth, all that good stuff. So the point being, also I've forgotten ability, whoopsies, but you're missing out on what basically makes this ability become an instant kill, right? This is a ton of extra bonus damage that you're getting for breached enemies, and then you're just getting rid of the damage penalty for calling in bounty hunters to assist. And so, like I said, this ability essentially becomes an instant kill, which is a stark contrast as to if you just had this at like level 3 or level 4, right? So point being, The Executor is an amazing capital ship, but up until you get it to 7 stars, I'd say it's just a really, really good capital ship, right? You're still going to be able to beat it with Negotiator, Malevolence, Finalizer, which you can do now, or even the Radis. Actually, I've seen counter this at low stars as well. So, yes, it is a good fleet, and not to mention once you get it at 7 stars, you know, you're going to be able to get all those crystals every day, which is great. But with, you know, the accelerated gear economy, you're not really spending crystals on gear anymore, you're just spending it on energy. But as long as you can do well in GAX, and then TB getting moved to twice a month, right, that also is a big boost in crystal economy as well. So it's not like you're really starving for crystals like you used to be. So, you know, if you just do well in GAX, you're going to get the crystals that you need every day, right? And then, like I said, when you do TBs come around and stuff, that's going to give you a really strong extra boost as well. So, you know, like if you do go Executor first as your big project, it's not like you're not going to get mileage out of it. But, you know, like I said before, the only way I used to think you'd be able to win GAX was to go Executor first. But now that I've, you know, had an account, like a new account that has just SOKR and no Executor, I've been able to move up to Chromium, right? Which I never really thought I'd be able to do without having Executor. So it's able to be done. You just have to have a good roster that you can actually beat your opponent with. So now I'm focusing more on width as opposed to height. But, you know, if you do see a farming guide that recommends going Executor first, I would highly recommend doing what a Happy Fish did and just saving up enough crystals to where you're able to unlock the Executor and then 7-star it on day 1. Because if you don't have it 7-star at day 1, it's still going to be good, but it's definitely you're going to miss out on a lot of the viability. And it's still going to be able to be beat by other regular fleets that you're going to see, you know, day to day in Fleet Arena, like the Malevolence and the Negotiators, right? So that's going to do it for point number 5. So let's go ahead and move up to point number 6. Also, I'm going to put the cats up, so say bye to those guys later. Point number 6. All right, so for point number 6, we are going to be talking about none other than Darth Revan. Now, this character has been a character that's been a staple. I'd say the staple teams of SWGO for a while have been CLS and then both the Revans. Those are kind of the projects you want to get before either getting an Executor or a GL, and that's just been the way it's been since they've been released, right? However, it is my opinion, again, this is a slightly controversial list, but Darth Revan is really not that good early on, to be completely honest with you. It's a good team in the sense that he's got fear, you're able to turn meter train, but the thing is that it can be beat by Imperial Troopers, which is basically a team that most everybody has, which is really detrimental to its performance. Not to mention, it's going to be able to beat by Imperial Troopers even with Darth Malak, which is really, really bad because, you know, Darth Malak, if you do end up getting him, is a great offensive tool to be able to solo some teams and whatnot. So you're missing out on that, which is unfortunate. But, I mean, the whole point is just that, you know, Revan's kind of an expensive project because you want to be able to relic him and everything like that. But the thing is that, you know, if you put him on defense, he's really not going to get that kind of all-star performance that you're really hoping for. I'm not saying he's bad, but he's not really, he's just fallen off, right? He was amazing on release, but it's 2024 now. A lot of things have come out that have been able to beat him, and unless you're using him with Darth Malgus, this character isn't exactly the S-tier team he used to be. He's just fallen off. It's power creep. It's how games like this work, right? So that is why my 6th point is just going to be that I do not think that Revan is necessarily the staple character he is anymore. I think Jedi Knight Revan provides much more utility, and I think he's still worth picking up. But, yeah, Darth Revan, just until Malgus, I don't really think is worth swerving out of your way too hard and then, you know, being a big relic project. If you do get him, I'd say probably just unlock Malak and then just kind of leave him at like gear 12 or something like that, truthfully. So that's my opinion on Darth Revan. Let's go ahead and move on to the 7th point, which is going to be the most controversial. So just bear with me on this one, okay? All right, guys, so here comes the big one, and it's going to be that, in my opinion, for point number 7, CLS is not worth being your first big relic project, which sounds like blasphemy, because, you know, that's basically how it's been since the character was released way back when. But guys, the year is 2024, and there's a ton that beats this team. In order to get CLS himself, you need 5 requirements, and then one of those requirements takes 5 requirements. And then if you want the optimal team lineup, you're going to need C-3PO, who takes 5 requirements. So that's 15 total requirements for a team, which is actually crazy. But then in addition to that, yeah, they're just old, right? At this stage, I'm afraid their time in the sun is coming to an end. They'll still always be a really good team, right? That's not what I'm saying. But the point being is that if you look at what beats it, you've got both Revans, Night Sisters, Phoenix, Iden, and then Savage can solo the team even at high relics. So I'm definitely not saying this isn't a great team outside of GAC. They're a great team and whatnot. They definitely are a great team. It's just that there's a lot of better things that you can pick up first. That are going to be able to beat this team, and they're going to get you a lot of extra mileage in GAC, being able to beat teams besides this one as well, right? I do think they're worth picking up in the early stages of the game, right? But definitely I would recommend just picking them up passively, earning their shards through events and stuff like that, and then working on it later. But, you know, it's a really lengthy process to get it first, and then by the time you get to your first GACs, you're not going to have anything really of of substantial value, right? If you go up against someone who, for example, is following something like my farming guide, which shameless plug, but you know, basically the whole point of my farming guide is that you're getting really good early things. You're getting Phoenix, Iden, Night Sisters, Online Force Uniter, Scoundrels, Bounty Hunters, right? You're getting things that are going to give you a ton of mileage in the early stages of the game, both in GAC and outside of GAC. And if you go on a count like this, it's really just honed in on that CLS. Up until you get CLS, that's really the only thing that's going to be good. The other teams that you're getting to get CLS are all really, really bad, right? So that's the reason why, in my opinion, I don't view CLS as being the best first relic project anymore. I do still think he's worth getting because he's really good, don't get me wrong. It's just that, man, this team, it's just old, and that's how these games work, right? Just like with Darth Revan. We're kind of seeing, basically, I don't want to say the end of his reign or anything like that, but it's definitely, you know, this is basically the poster boy of of Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, and, you know, all good things come to an end, you know, end in quotes because he's still good, but yeah, I don't think he's worth being your first big relic project. So hopefully you guys agree. Well, or not, it's up to you. It's fine. If you do want to argue with me, come over to my Twitch stream. I'm more than happy to talk with you about it. Leave your thoughts down below. If you enjoyed this, leave a like. If you didn't, leave a dislike. No one's going to see it except for me, but you know how it is. But other than that, guys, you know, I do appreciate y'all watching, so make sure to subscribe just to be notified on my new content and all that good stuff. But other than that, guys, that'll be it for me. So thank y'all for watching, and that's all for now. I'll catch y'all later. Peace out.